Collecting and displaying, or playing with, yeah, I know, okay, displaying Star Wars action figures for adult collectors has become a lot more than a hobby. It's become part of pop culture. And these toys used to be at what was called the shut me up price point, where someone could buy it without really thinking about how it was going to, hit their weekly wallet churn. Well, fast forward to today, and at $16.99, these figures with tax are pushing $20, and that means collecting an entire Star Wars universe is becoming more expensive and more difficult. Fortunately, we've had 40 years of figures at much lower prices, and while some of us enjoy collecting different areas of the Star Wars universe, like Jabba's palace, or others want to recreate the original Kenner line, no matter what our motivation, what gets us these figures is the correct vehicle. And I don't mean, a car or the plane that actually brings it to the toy store. I mean the actual distribution model, that vehicle, what actually acts to carry the product to us. And I bring this up because there are things that Hasbro is doing right now that is honestly absolutely brilliant and could probably be the future of Star Wars collecting. So let's talk about some of them. Army building, right? Army building is something that, while those of us as kids in the 80s may not have been able to do as much, Hasbro has made it easier for modern parents and modern collectors by putting out army building packs. Now, these have been sold at retail, but they don't work. They never work. I mean, if they sold at retail, they would sell at retail. That's kind of the line. If it worked, it would work. But brilliantly, Hasbro has moved the army building SKU or vehicle to online distribution. Now, while they have gotten a little bit wonky as far as getting, I guess you could say, politically correct and having, lots of different ethnicities in these packs, even if that's not screen accurate, I go for screen accuracy over diversity, what can I say? They are set up for success with a lot of tools like the Imperial Officer or the Cloud City Wing Guard as perfect fodder for additional Army Builder sets in the future. So, love to see this particular SKU continue to get us all of those background characters that are dressed the same. But what about those background characters not dressed the same? I mean, this has been a huge part of Star Wars play and collecting for decades now. The fact that the characters are so outstandingly unique. They have what in the toy industry are called unique silhouettes. And Hasbro has put out sets of different aliens, sort of a different take on the Army Builder, where instead of getting all of the same character, like a stormtrooper or a guard, you're getting different aliens. Now, their kind of ultimate version of this is now available for pre-order, and that is this 4-pack of Jabba Denzians, I think they're calling them. The great thing about this is it includes 2 characters that have never been done before, human, large characters that are actually quite important for completing the skiff or for getting that guy who actually shot Luke in the hand. The only character who actually correctly shot a good guy in the entire trilogy, except for, I guess, that stormtrooper who shot Leia on Endor, but that's not important right now. The point being is we'll put up with a reissue of Rees to get 3 brand new figures, 2 of which who have never had a sculpt before. So this is just another version of an Army Builder pack, except it just has more tooling. Got a lot of shared tooling, but again, it's a vehicle to get us these obscure characters. Putting out background humans, not exactly the hottest sellers in the toy aisle, but by selling them as part of a themed pack online. Now, the other thing Hasbro has been doing is really embracing kind of this retro trend, putting out figures that had retro figures, ones that didn't have retro figures, ones that are imagining what the retro figures could look like, and of course this strategy is being applied to Star Wars robustly with their retro collection, and while this started off with a reissue or recreation, retooling of the first 6 figures from 1978. No, there were no figures in 1977 because it took Kenner a year. Now, this form factor has now slowly kind of become the new 5 points of articulation basic figure for kids, which is incredibly ironic, seeing as that these toys originally were created for kids back in the 1980s. So while we're getting lots of characters for the new Disney Plus, there are those of us who would love to be able to recreate the vintage retro line with reissues to avoid having to, go to tag sales and track down actual vintage samples. This is sort of a good enough way of acquiring vintage figures, if you will. And for those who want to recreate the original 92 or 96 or 120, depending on how you do your count and whether you count the Ewok figures or not, well, Potentially, this is a way of doing it. And once again, a box set of army builders sold online. Are you seeing a pattern here? Again, while they don't all look the same, they're not all stormtroopers, they are an army builder in the sense that they provide a set of figures, and most importantly, all of these sets are bypassing retail. And that's really the key I want to get to, because bypassing retail is what allows way more variety and character selection. Retail has very, very specific requirements from how products should perform on pegs. And if they're not going to perform up to the number of units needed to be sold per week, which is usually 1 per peg per week, well, then they're going to initiate things like retailer clearance or manufacturer-funded sales in order to ensure products have the right amount of churn or velocity. Other incremental placement, like the back of the electronics aisle for the collector wall, is always an option, but it gets a lot less foot traffic. Really, it's about pushing all this product online, kind of like when I was at Mattel and we ran Matty Collector for subscriptions. Why not do that for Star Wars? Having these figures available in box sets to get a large group all at once in a themed set for a very specific movie or part of a movie, like Jabba's Palace, and not mixing and matching different content between prequels and classic trilogy or Disney+. But by having these different box sets, whether they're direct army builders or they are unique characters sold as sets, doing it online and embracing what Hasbro does with their Hasbro HasLab program, instead of perhaps doing one giant thing or a giant thing with a few extra figures added to it like the Razor Crest, my thought is, why not offer a giant set of, 25 figures, 10 figures, 100 figures, however much it might cost, and by theming it correctly, like, for example, you could put out all the rest of the Cantina aliens that we've never gotten in this manner. And that's what I love about what Hasbro is doing right now. With these 3 vehicles all offered online, well, it's giving us an opportunity to find a way to get figures without relying on the restrictions of retail and bundling them together in one convenient purchase. All 3 of these, I think, could very much be the future of Star Wars collecting, and I hope Hasbro embraces this strategy and this release method because it's very strong, and there's an audience for it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching and sharing. It's the best way to support this channel. I'll see you guys in the next one, and always comments and questions are welcome below. Thanks for watching, thanks for sharing, and I'll see you in the next one.